Imagine for a moment the state president sitting in his living room watching the news. The date is early February 2012. On the 8th of January 2012, he, Jacob Zuma, sang a variation of Shoot the Boer at the ANC's centenary celebrations, a song in which the shooting and murdering of white farmers is romanticized, while members of Mkhonto we Sizwe, the ANC's military wing, were dancing and ululating in front of him, all dressed in military uniforms. The news comes on. There have been 6 farm murders in the last month after he sang that song. What would the president's reaction be? The question of farm murders have been debated extensively. More precisely, the question of motive. Why do these attacks take place? What are the motives behind this? Is it motivated by greed or by political factors? The most recent and most comprehensive research into the matter was published in the report of the Committee of Inquiry into Farm Attacks published in 2003. The report concluded that in 89.3% of farm attacks, the perpetrators were motivated by the intention to steal. This report has been quoted repeatedly ever since, and deservedly so. It is probably the most comprehensive study into the phenomenon of farm attacks to date. There are, however, several reasons why this conclusion could be questioned. Number 1, the report was commissioned by the South African government that had a vested interest in a finding that suits the government's narrative. Number 2, in trying to determine the motive behind farm attacks, the panel attached significant weight to what the perpetrators say their motive was. Number 3, the extreme levels of torture often seen during these attacks are still inexplicable if the motive was only to steal. Number 4, the low monetary value of that which is usually stolen in comparison to the levels of violence inflicted onto the victims is still not explained. Number 5, the fact that in many of these cases the stolen goods are deserted and left somewhere on the farm is still not explained. Number 6, while white and black farmers are being attacked and killed, the fact that black victims are not subjected to the same levels of torture is still not explained. And most importantly, the drafters of the report seem to have committed an irrational argument known as the fallacy of the single cause. A fallacious argument in which the reason for a particular phenomenon is reduced to only one cause. The fact of the matter is that someone can be motivated by the intention to steal, as well as by racist beliefs and loyalty to a particular political ideology, to name only a few. Also, the ANC's official position regarding white farmers during the 1980s is often swept under the carpet when farm murders are discussed. Here is what Mkhonto we Sizwe commander Sipiwe Nyanda said about a decision the ANC took in 1985.
Technically, people could say those farmers are just farmers, and these farmers were defending themselves. But we began to identify why we should regard them as targets. Also, there might be soft targets because, they're farmers and they have wives and children staying with them in those farms. And they might be with their families when they tread on those landmines that we wanted to plant on their farms. But we thought, since they are assisting and abating the system and trying to help the apartheid regime to survive, that they become legitimate targets. Those were the sorts of things we were dealing with.
Also, the apparent increase in farm attacks in times of political turmoil is often ignored on the question of motive behind farm murders. Here are a few examples. On 17 April 1993, ANC youth leader and personal role model of Julius Malema, Peter Mokaba, chanted, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer," at a political gathering. When asked why he did this, he said, "Let me make it clear. What I said was, kill the farmer, kill the Boer, shoot to kill. This is our culture. This is our tradition. Those who disagree can go to hell." More or less the same time, a white farmer, Godfrey Frederick Lance Hewer, was murdered. The accused was a man named Mtutuko Chwene, who admitted to committing the murder and testified under oath that he was influenced by Peter Mokaba's singing of "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." He then explained his action with the following words. I could have killed any other white man I came across at that time. My frustrations were directed to white men because they had what we did not have. A breakdown of all the farm attacks in that year indicates that in the month following on Mukaba's chanting of this song, there was a 42% upwards variance in farm attacks and 135% upwards variance in farm murders when that month is compared to the rest of that year. On the 8th of May 2011, Julius Malema, then the president of the ANC Youth League, stated in Kimberley, "Once we agree that they, white people, stole our land, we can agree that they are criminals and must be treated as such." He then embarked on a nationwide campaign to popularize the song Dubula Ibunu, which means, when translated to English, "They are scared, the cowards. Shoot the Boer. They rob these dogs." In reaction to this, AfriForum attempted to present a memorandum to the ANC's headquarters consisting of the names of all the farmers that have been murdered on South Africa's farms. The list of names was thrown into the street, kicked around, and jumped on by officials at the ANC's headquarters, all in front of rolling TV cameras. In the month following on Malema's hate speech, there was an upwards variance of 88% in farm attacks and 51% in farm murders. Then in 2012, Jacob Zuma sang the song to which I alluded earlier in January, and on the 5th of June, then ANC Youth League President Ronald Lamola said, "I am just giving a warning to white South Africans. They must voluntarily bring back the land and voluntarily bring back the mineral resources. There will be a moment when these service delivery protesters will invade the land of Mr. Van Tonder and Mr. Van der Merwe, and we can no longer be able to guarantee the continued safety of Mr. Van der Merwe." The ANC Youth League defended him, saying, "Such a precautionary note raising the hopeless plight of our people, blacks in general and Africans in particular, can only be construed as an incitement to violence by those hell-bent to protect white minority privilege at the expense of the black majority." Lamola continued, "We need an act as forceful as war to bring the land back to Africans." And an ANC spokesperson warned that the country must prepare themselves for the fight of their lives. On that day, just a few kilometers from where he made that statement, and just a few hours after it, Arina Miller was murdered on their small holding. In the month that followed, there was a 60% variance in farm murders. Then, in 2003, the Economic Freedom Fighters were founded, complete with banners stating that the honeymoon is over for white people in South Africa. On the 7th of November 2016, Malema, the EFF's so-called commander-in-chief, stated that "we are not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least not for now," and several other hateful comments. In the month that followed, there was an upwards variant of 92% in farm murders. When Leon Kukamur was attacked on his farm, the attackers chanted, "Die white man, viva Malema." And when Knowledge Paulus Mandlazi stood accused of murdering 5 white farmers in 3 months, he responded in court that "my hate for white people made me do it," and that he was merely going to work. Now, let me bring it back to earth. I'm not saying that in all of these cases, all of these murders that took place in the months following on these incidents of hate speech were a direct result of these statements. There is still too little data to make a solid scientific conclusion. The point, however, is that there appears to be an upward trend in farm attacks during volatile times when violence towards farmers are romanticized from public platforms by people who have political influence. The little data available already raises serious questions about the simple conclusion that 90% of farm attacks are only motivated by the intention to steal. Are we simply talking about a small percentage of cases in which political factors played a role? Perhaps. But consider this. When the Potgieter family in Lindley was murdered, Ati Potgieter was stabbed 151 times with a garden fork, a panga and a knife, while his wife and 3-year-old daughter had to watch. Thereafter, little Wilhelmine was executed and thrown in a box, whereafter Wilna Potgieter was dragged into the house and executed. The attackers left with 3,000 rand and stuck a poster on the farm gate saying, "We murdered them and we are coming back." When they appeared in court, they stated that they simply committed these atrocious acts because they were motivated by the intention to steal. if one thing is certain, it is that we need to revisit the motives behind farm attacks. My name is Adam Strutz, and this is your fact sheet.